Hey everybody, so it's time for the next episode of NHL Remember Him. I haven't done one in about a month, and bringing it back now. I believe this is episode 7. And today we are going to be talking about somebody that I certainly remember quite well. Started playing in the mid-2000s and played all the way up until 2015 in the NHL. Third line guy, former first round draft pick. He was picked 22nd overall way back in the early 2000s, but never really developed into what you would expect from a first round pick. But he did have a solid career as a third liner in the NHL and had some quality seasons for some decent teams. And that player is Sean Bergenheim. So, Sean Bergenheim played 506 career games in the NHL. He had 96 goals and 84 assists for 180 points in those 506 games. In the playoffs, he was a pretty good playoff performer, especially in 2011. More on that later. But in 26 career playoff games, he scored 12 goals and 5 assists for 17 points in those 26 games. So, obviously, in the playoffs, that 17 points in 26 games, points per game, is a lot better than his regular season points per game, which was 180 and a 506. So he did pick his game up in the playoffs and was a good playoff performer. So Bergenheim came into the league in 2003 with the New York Islanders and played with the Islanders all the way until 2010. And I certainly remember Bergenheim as an Islander, and he was always thought of as a good young player coming up for the Islanders. But he never really developed into that top 6 offensive scorer that people thought he was going to early in his career. He kind of always just stayed as a third, fourth line guy. Good secondary scoring, could give you around 15 goals in a season, but never really took that next step. So, after playing with the Islanders for a number of years, he went to the Tampa Bay Lightning in 2010-11. And that year was the year that Tampa Bay went to the Eastern Conference Final before losing to Boston in 7 games. I, obviously, being a Bruins fan, remember that like yesterday. That was a very good Tampa Bay team, and Sean Bergenheim was a very good secondary scoring third liner on that team, and I vividly remember him playing in Tampa Bay. After that season in Tampa Bay, he signed with the Florida Panthers and played with the Panthers for a few years from 2011 to 2015. And I certainly, that was only a few years ago now, certainly remember him on the Panthers. And then at the end, during the 2014-15 season, he was traded to the Minnesota Wild. Did not go well in Minnesota for Bergenheim. He played 17 games with the team and only scored 1 goal. That was his only point. So that trade did not work out for the Wild like they had hoped, or Bergenheim. And after that, he was done in the NHL. That was the end of Sean Bergenheim's NHL career. So going back to 2011, because this is something that really, I think, people forget, but he was pretty well known, was how great of a playoff he had in 2011 for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Like I said, that team went to the Eastern Conference Final. In 16 playoff games that year, he scored 9 goals, had 2 assists as well, for 11 points in 16 games in the playoffs that year. So that was a great postseason for him. And, he wasn't a guy getting top 6 minutes on that Tampa Bay team. That was a very talented Tampa Bay team. I mean, think of the guys on, that Tampa had coming up the ranks in there. You had young guys like Teddy Purcell and Steven Stamkos really just coming into their own, while you still had veteran guys around on that team like Vinny LeCavalier in St. Louis and stuff. That was a very, very good Tampa Bay Lightning team in 2011, and Bergenheim was a third liner on that team, but he helped out a lot in the playoffs as a secondary scorer and during the regular season, because he had a career high 29 points that year in the regular season. He would go on to match that 29 points again in 2013-14 with the Florida Panthers. However, he would never reach 30 points in a season. 29 remained his career high. So Sean Bergenheim had a solid career in the NHL. Nothing, he was never a star, nothing spectacular, but he was always a solid third-line player for a pretty long time in the NHL, starting with the Islanders, and then moving on, having a really good year in Tampa Bay, then playing in Florida, having another couple of good seasons with the Panthers before fizzling out and eventually being out of the NHL. But so Sean Bergenheim, I certainly remember him. I'm sure a lot of you do too, because it's not like he played that long ago. He played, his best known years were probably from 2007 on with the Islanders, that year in Tampa Bay, and then with the Florida Panthers. So probably 2007 through 14 were probably the best known years of Sean Bergenheim's career, and where he was a pretty solid NHL player. Around 25 to 30 points a season for him, solid third line numbers. So that is it for episode 7 of NHL Remember Him. Sean Bergenheim, solid third line NHL player for a few different teams in the NHL, and a very bad end of a season in Minnesota. But with that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media, check out offthewallhockey.com. All those links are down in the description below. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon and merchandise store are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.